NECA IDW TMNT figures we hope to see, Part 1. Hi everybody, welcome to SpeekyGeeky. As always, I am Mr. Geeky. Today, we are going to be imagining and discussing a possible NECA IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy line. We originally started preparing this video all the way back in the fall of 2020 and realized a lot of time has gone by since then, especially in turtle years. We figured with there likely being some assured reveals just around the corner in July, which would coordinate with a handful of reveals that typically surround San Diego Comic-Con, which has been canceled this year, now is probably as good a time as any to get those turtle van wheels of imagination turning. Because who knows what kind of surprises we might be treated to between now and then. Okay, first a little background here. In December of 2020, NECA's TMNT brand manager, Trever Zammit, sat down with the Fwoosh and discussed some new TMNT products coming down the road for 2021 and beyond. There were a ton of great reveals, as well as some salient nuggets for speculation, and we highly suggest sitting down and giving it a listen. The link for that we'll put up right here for your convenience. But one of the key topics that caught our attention over at SpeekyGeeky was that NECA would be diving into more comic-facing figures. Trever later clarified that he was talking specifically about Mirage with this statement. But at the very least, we are hoping this might kick that door slightly wider open toward NECA acquiring the license for tackling IDW TMNT as well. So, as turtle fans tend to do, our imaginations ran wild at these new possibilities, and we started thinking about who would top our list of IDW figures we'd want to see if indeed NECA was able to get their hands on the license. With so many incredibly unique iterations of familiar characters and wholly new characters, it was pretty exciting to brainstorm our extensive list of who might fit the bill for who we would want to make the cut. So many, in fact, that in order to do this speculative line justice, we'll have to break them down throughout the course of a handful of videos. Join us now for part 1 of SpeekyGeeky's top NECA TMNT IDW comic toys we'd like to see. Number 10, Old Hob. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but as the always crafty Old Hob illustrates for mutant cats, well, that's an entirely different story. Old Hob stands out as one of the many breakaway characters from the IDW series. Though Old Hob seems rooted as an amalgamation of equal parts Cat's Blood Claw from TMNT and Other Strangenesses Roadhogs, the action figure Scratch, and Minx/Verminator X from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures Archie comics, in this mythos, he is firmly defined as having a connection to the Turtles and to Splinter from the very beginning. It turns out that an abandoned pre-mutation Hob, though technically that would make him young Hob, we guess, encountered the Turtles as they made contact with the ooze and tried to run off with pre-mutation Raph, which Splinter didn't take kindly to and subsequently scratched his eye out. So, you know, youch! Seeing as how Raph had mutagen all over him when Hob tried carrying him off, his mutant origin story directly overlaps with their own. Technically, Old Hob was the Turtles' very first enemy, but throughout the series, he occasionally finds himself an ally of circumstance. Cunning and ethically questionable, Old Hob illustrates the flip side to the Turtles' sense of family and moral code, though he has started a family of his own in the form of the de facto leader of the Mutanimals, many of which oftentimes help or at least attempt to keep Old Hob's morals marginally less gray. Number 9, Alopex. Fiercely furry fandom favorite, fiercely furry fandom favorite, fiercely furry fandom favorite. White box on a rooftop. Furry power. While our hastily put together song may not win any awards, Alopex herself may sit high on many fans' top tier of characters from the IDW series they hope to get the plastic treatment from. That said, we also dare you to try and get our poorly crafted song out of your head while you happily pose her on your shelf once she is made. Since her introduction into the series as a slightly, but not irredeemably damaged and mind-controlled villain within Shredder's ranks, Alopex has been a character that is both fascinating to watch as her journey develops toward regaining control of her mind and her destiny, as well as an enjoyable addition to the ever-growing ranks of once villain, now close ally to the Turtles. When this much-desired figure makes its way to the real world, we could see this as having two versions, one that comes as a standard but heavily articulated figure, and a chase that is also articulated but flocked. Number 8, post-mutation Jennika. What's that? Are we sure we didn't mean to say Venus de Milo? Whatever does that mean? We kid, but for those who remember and yearn for de Milo to make her triumphant return, side note, despite the often more silly nature of the next mutation, she absolutely still retains a pretty healthy fan base. We hate to be the bearers of bad news, but apparently Peter Laird was not a de Milo fan. And for now, Jennika is the closest we will get. Other than both female turtles, non-familial status to the four brothers, Jennika's origin actually differs quite a bit from de Milo's. De Milo is one of the turtles who was separated from the other four at the point of mutation and was raised completely unaware of the rest of the turtles in Chinatown, only becoming aware of their existence upon the death of her father figure, Chung-E. We have a lot of questions on why he would choose not to divulge that there are others like herself, why if Splinter knew of her existence, he wouldn't volunteer to have her meet the other turtles or become reunited with them earlier, and how the turtles were all brothers, but somehow the only other turtle with them wasn't related. But these are all questions I don't know that we'll be getting answers to anytime soon, and also we're supposed to be talking about Jennika now, so those questions will have to wait for another video. Mild spoilers in a moment, so here's your friendly neighborhood spoiler man warning. Jennika, or Jenny to her friends, was a human ninja chunin in Splinter's Foot Clan. Yes, you heard that correctly. We did indeed say Splinter's Foot Clan. And right from the get-go, it creates a tumultuous dynamic with the turtles having had years of bonding and becoming accustomed to their mutant physiology together, and Jennika left to feel like a virtual outsider among her peers, having had her mutation thrust upon her and left to wrestle with this new, very different reality. Because of this, even though Jennika certainly looked like the turtles, so far, she always seems to struggle with how she fits in with them. Human Jenny had a relationship going with Casey Jones, which ended poorly after a near-death experience left her in need of a quick transfusion. And fun fact, and also one which Jenny figured out the hard way, is that humans don't actually need to be in contact with physical mutation to turn into a mutant, just the blood of another mutant, in this case, Leonardo's. The reverberations of this might be picked apart for quite some time in terms of what this actually means, and we're sure it will indeed be addressed. But for now, we'll just count our lucky stars that after all these years, we may finally have a brand new opportunity toward getting an awesome female turtle onto our toy shelf, standing shoulder to shoulder with the four brothers again. Who knows? Maybe NECA will meet us halfway and throw in an alternate unofficial nod to de Milo's cyan masked head with Jennika, calling it Incognito Jenny? You never know, but that sure would be a nice added touch to cater to many of those longtime de Milo fans at the same time. Number 7, Bludgeon. For those who used to pretend that Street Sharks were actually part of the same TMNT universe, and let's face it, they were legion, the introduction of Bludgeon provided an opportunity towards bridging that gap. He is everything we could want from an awesome looking shark villain. Well, except maybe rooted hair. Number 6, Koya. In advance of her mutation, Koya used to be Shredder's pet falcon that he utilized for reconnaissance. After her mutation, her bird of prey instincts and abilities kicked into high gear, allowing her to go for the jugular as a fairly ruthless bare-knuckles fighter who, with her offense sidekick Bludgeon by her side, have kept the turtles desperately struggling to keep up on many occasions. Koya is both sleek and imposing and uses her impressive wingspan and talons as masterful weapons against her enemies. It's quite possible we're just suckers for avian mutants, but if these IDW figures are ever produced, we couldn't imagine that collection being complete without Koya's menacing presence hovering over our heroes, just waiting for her moment to swoop in for the kill. Number 5, Herman the Hermit Crab and Pigeon Pete. Yeah, we're doing a bit of cheating here and giving you 2 options for the price of 1, but considering these videos don't cost you anything, we don't see it being too big of an issue. Herman and Pete started as a pet hermit crab and a pigeon, respectively, and were enlisted into Old Hobbs' mutanimals. Herman seems to have been born ready to be a soldier, carrying around his portable home and heavy artillery wherever he goes. And Pete? Well, Pete is Pete. Herman is essentially 1 part Masters of the Universe's Clawful, 1 part G.I. Joe, and 1 part Sesame Street's Oscar the Grouch. While Pete, again, wait for it, is Pete. What Pete lacks in intelligence or fighting skills, he makes up for in being a lovably innocent pigeon, who, as Old Hobbs' first experiment with creating his own mutant, is very much about being an active part of the family that he's inherited. Number 4, Jagwar. Not your Archie's TMNT Jagwar, though, much like that iteration, she is still technically a god. Jagwar, in the IDW universe, is one of the members of the Pantheon, an ancient family of deity misfits who get their kicks meddling in human affairs throughout history. Not a ton is known about Jagwar's history just yet in the series, but from what we can ascertain about her, like Raph, she tends to run hot, jumping into the fray first and asking questions later. In an ideal toy world, we would have both the Archie and the IDW versions of Jagwar, as both versions seem to fit in quite well with their respective teams. One entrenched with her Pantheon brethren poised to bring down the turtles if need be, and the other standing shoulder to shoulder with his mutanimal family standing up for the turtles against this potential threat. Number 3, Diamond. Excusing the pun, let's just get right to the point on this one. Diamond is terrifying. Also, giving props where props are due, the IDW series managed to seamlessly connect many of the TMNT and other strangeness characters into what is now the canon TMNT world proper. For years, deep-rooted fans have known just how cool some of these characters were, and with characters like Diamond, we are talking about bringing them in full-throatedly as potential mainstays with deeper stories to explore. Looking at this character, is there any way a TMNT fan isn't going to want this on their shelves, towering menacingly over their fallen heroes? To add an extra layer of awesome here, the figure could have a soft rubber quill overlay like Masters of the Universe Spike-Ore, with hidden slots for some additional harder removable quills with the ability to launch them at potential foes. A nod to toy enthusiasts who appreciate a good nostalgic action feature that harkens back to the Playmates days and gives characters like head-dropping Donnie something brand new to dodge. Number 2, Rat King. Gone are the days of the goofy rat-whispering predecessor who lurked in the sewers. A new TMNT series called for a new take on our favorite whimsical Pied Piper-esque weirdo who has a tight musical grip over plague-carrying brethren of the splintery kind. In IDW's newest incarnation, the Rat King is a bona fide member of the Pantheon. Yes, that would be the same Pantheon we mentioned a little earlier in the video. They are a fun bunch, and we'll get to some of its other members in the upcoming videos. We are fully aware there are some major Mammoth fans out there, so trust us, we see you, and that giant pachyderm is on our radar too. We'll get there. IDW's Rat King, quite literally, was the Pied Piper of Hamelin, not just modeled after him. In this iteration, he's the real deal. He also has a pretty hardcore Loki-type vibe going on with him. So when he rears his Crypt Keeper-like head, you never quite know if he's there to help out or merely to fiddle while he watches over your destruction. The more things change, the more they stay the same, however, in that this character's look, much like his predecessor, is really freaking cool, with a sinister smile that is equal parts menacing and fun-loving, and an outfit that is just asking for a seat at the horror section of your toy shelf. Number 1, present and future Lita. Though Lita is fairly new to the TMNT mythos, making her debut in the newest Mutant Town stories, she has brought with her an air of intrigue and is proving to be an integral role within the Turtle fold, including a connection to a certain tall hat-wearing, space-hopping friend of theirs. We don't entirely know the full scope of Lita's relationship to the Turtles' future, other than the barrage of monster Easter eggs her future self has dropped. But what we do know for certain is that we need her in our collection ASAP. What? You want more? All right, here's some quick and dirty bonus 10 characters that we'll call the Classic Bunch.
From Playmates.
Bebop, Rocksteady, Shredder, Splinter, Donnie, Mikey, Raph, Leo, April, and Casey Jones. Even though we aren't going to dive heavily into the whys for these 10 choices, as many casual Turtles fans are already quite familiar with the choices from this selection and their respective roles within the TMNT mythos. But we felt it should at least be noted that all these core characters are absolutely and unquestionably wanted. It's just that because they are so well recognized, we felt it was a pretty good assumption that if NECA acquired the IDW license, these universally recognizable bedrock figures would likely be already safe bets for getting plastic treatment. So, reiterating, we are not discounting fan demand for these characters, as they are all very much desired characters. For the sake of this list, however, rather than pulling slots from equally awesome but lesser known characters, we figured we would give some spotlight to some of those incredible characters left standing in the core character's very big shadow, as they may deserve a little more explanation and exposure to newcomers. Though there are a handful of unique representations of the core characters that we may add to upcoming lists as well. If you find you are intrigued by this very stylized look and haven't picked any of these issues up yet, we promise it is absolutely worth checking out and discovering for yourself. Earlier issues are a little harder to find, but trade paperbacks through IDW Publishing as of the filming of this video are still widely available and couldn't come higher recommended. Well, there it is. That wraps part 1 of our top IDW TMNT characters we'd like as toys. But part 2 will be dropping any day now, so make sure to stay tuned to SpeekyGeeky's YouTube for more dedicated IDW Turtle time. We imagine you'll have some characters from the IDW comic that top your list too, so feel free to join the conversation in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to sub up, give the video a like, and share with anyone you know who appreciates these kind of videos. Also, make sure to check out the description for additional links that lead to some similar expanded content we think you'll also probably enjoy quite a bit. We realize you could have gone anywhere and you chose to nerd out with us, and we appreciate that. So, as always, I am Mr. Geeky, and until next week, Comic Turtle Speeky, keep it geeky, folks.